things I wanted to mention is there are several consulting engineers in the room, and we're seeing fewer and fewer broadcasters go to consulting engineers or even to their own engineers for help. So clients will do, or radio and TV people do dumb stuff independently, and they'll come to you folks, and you're really the first line of defense for sanity because we're often gone around. So, and I've heard in several of your presentations today, they called up and we want to use a 1 kilowatt transmitter and an Umpty-Conch Bay antenna, and we need it tomorrow, and you guys have to save them. How do you help them? And it's a pretty broad question, but how do you help these people stay between the lines, do what's right for them, and not lose your minds? I mean, I heard at the Radio Nirvana thing, whatever, it was always, ask Cory, he'll make it happen. And your boss will say, oh no. But somebody comes to you with a silly thing. Do you have the time, or do you have to make the time to teach them what to do? And yes, it's going to cost money, and yes, you have to use money. Steve.
Yeah, so I get a lot of those types of questions. I will say one of the things that helps me is as I also sell to all the transmitter companies. So I have a pretty good idea, especially on the television side, of breakdown of transmitter for power levels. And usually that's where I start is, okay, because usually that's the most expensive unit in the chain. And I'll say, okay, what power level are you looking to run? And then, of course, go to the website, find ERPs, and then we start that. And, okay, is it your tower? Is it an American tower, vertical bridge, whoever? But, yeah, it's all a game on price a lot of times and trying to figure out what is the sweet spot on aperture space, power level, and then the antenna fits. And you try not to give them too much gain because then they don't get good coverage. So.
Yeah, I find that they often don't know. Surprising, my bride is a television engineer, and she said, all chief engineers know antennas. No. Radio engineers certainly know antennas. Not necessarily. So if they bypass us, they have to go to you, and you have to give them a little bit of an education on the antennas. Like, yes, you need to have so many bays, or no, you can't do that. So Jeff, you were talking about power, for example, in your section. Nobody understands that, yeah, we can add some more HD power, and that's cool, right?
And a lot of it, too, I mean, it comes down to sanity check. I mean, you've got to trust but verify is huge. If you tell me that you need this, I'm going to go double check because I'm about 50-50. Half the people that call me have no idea what they need. So first question will be, do you want analog? Do you want HD? Do you want analog with the chance to do HD? What's your TPO again? Are you sure? Are you 100% sure? Because that's not the same bay count as I'm seeing on your license. And everything, just trust but verify. And so those are the questions I'll ask over and over until I'm annoying.
You will find that the licenses may not be what's really built. And Google Earth is your friend or your worst enemy. And this goes across all services, including microwave.
Translator with an
8-bay, yeah. I mean, and you see it across land mobile people. Nobody knows how to read a map, how to fill out a form properly. It's all very approximate, and they go to the manufacturers, and you do the best you can to help them. If they come to consulting creatures or to the directors of engineering, then you have a fighting chance. But some people don't know they need to go to the FCC and say, Mother, may I? Can you move there? And that's a common problem. Steve, you had lots of experience with people that are coming to you say, gee, I used to have a Shively. And it was an 18 bay, and now I have a 20-foot tower. Can you help me?
Yeah, there'd be some physics there that we would need to discuss. But plenty of customers call about what they used to have, what they currently have. You have to, ask questions, ask lots of questions.
Talking for ERI, one of the legacy people like RCA and ERI legacy brands out there do antennas. This is going to sound dumb, but this is what was given to me courtesy of a client. Do antennas age? Yeah. Well, there are better antennas made now than there used to be. And you've got the fancy software. Would you say, yeah, your present day rototillers are better than what were done back when Tom Sellein was in diapers? That's
Tom's not here. So.
Tom's not here and we won't tell.
Cut the feed. There have been several changes over the years to the rototiller. I mean, early on, when they first came out, there were no shorted stubs on rototillers, and that didn't come about until the transmitters started having problems, and they were getting static on their lines, and they were having problems with the transmitters. That's when we started putting shorted stubs in every rototiller. When they first came out, we were mitering the arms. So all the arms were welded. They would tend to open up over time and start leaking. Now they're all bent arms. So, I mean, there's been, an evolution over time. So yeah, there's just been an evolution over time where the antenna today is better than it was then. But we've been on this current design now probably for 25 years. And it's just been really good for us. So there's not much more evolution that I see, in the next few years anyways, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there are still a lot of rototillers out there that are 50 years old. So we still get requests from time to time if they can do a rebuild kit on it. And we got to gently push them towards maybe it's time for a replacement.
The line I tell people, and I compare it to cars. I compare everything to cars because GMs understand cars. They don't understand transmitters or antennas. But I'll tell them, it's like, do you trust your daily driver to be the same car you were driving 50 years ago? Well, then why would you trust the primary revenue generation of your station to a 50-year-old device, whether it's the transmitter, the antenna, the line, or whatever?
The interesting thing is when an antenna does go boom, managers or even some of the station engineers says, well, can we just fix it? No. Had a 12 bay in the region go bad. It ate the wrong thing and it came out there with all the magic equipment and yeah, it's up there. Well, you're sure? So we had a tower crew go up, and when you unhook that little elbow at the bottom of the antenna and you get a couple of gallons of soot coming out, said that's a sign. And they want to still keep it, or they want to keep the transmission line that has all kinds of soot and junk and shavings that has fallen down it. And that's a tough discussion to have. And many of you folks also sell transmission line. I've had people complain, well, gee, we can't get it anymore. It's very expensive. Where are you going for transmission line? I gather some of you guys have something to do with transmission line. Is it really a tariff problem now? You can't get something reasonably priced? Is it just an upward slope?
What we found
Cheap.
So it's the raw materials really is the issue. We haven't found any suppliers in the US that can hold the same tolerances that we can get overseas. So we get all of ours out of Germany. I think you get yours out of a different country, but they're able to hold the tolerances and we just can't do it domestically. So we're at the mercy of the tariffs right now because that's where our raw materials come from.
I agree with Nick. We get ours. We get it from Germany. We get it from South Korea. You cannot get the copper alloy and the tolerancing of the drawn tube here in the States.
And it's not a question of somebody could do it, and they very easily could, but it would cost roughly double, just because if for no other reason, our cost of labor is easily double most other countries. And
then I'll just add one other thing. So we used to get what we called small tubes. So you could get 3-inch and below, you could get out of Canada. Well, now that we want to call the Canada USA, they're no longer selling to us either. So now
Canadians glaring at you now.
Temper.
Now even those materials are coming out of South Korea and Germany.
It's like
where
South
they never
Korea,
did
South
before.
Canada, same thing.
Yeah. But what I will say is that, we are passing along that tariff, but we also not too long ago were passing along all the container fees, because we were getting charged almost 40 grand just for one container of tubing when there was this big shortage of containers coming across the ocean. So now it's just shifted to a tariff, but it's been a problem since basically COVID.
Well, and it's not like we were talking earlier. It's not just, for us, our costs have gone up more in Bangor than they have in Halifax because Canada's aluminum is not tariffed in Canada, but Bangor, even their US bought aluminum is being built with bauxite coming out of China. So, prices are going up.
Steve, what are you running into on the left coast there?
Same thing. I mean, we're getting our products. A lot of our products come out of Germany. We do have the mill run tubing for us, the smaller tubings, but again, overseas has been a supplier for us. So we run into the same things. Yeah.
And you're seeing that with the AM folks, the people make phasers and tuning units, they're having trouble getting raw materials. So that's a rough one. Aluminum transmission line, I've seen that various times on the NAB floor. Is that the work of the devil, or is that okay? Or somebody want to step on that precipice and see what happens? Nobody wants to talk about it. Okay. Okay. There you go. Success story. Nothing caught fire.
But the expansion and contraction is different, and you have to watch that at both ends. So, other than that, no failures so far. 10 years in.
And would you say that's a fussier problem for television than for maybe FM? The expansion and contraction.
It would be. I don't know about that. We're running 6-inch in all cases, so that would be really high power FM. One of them is, yes. Long Island. One here in DC, and forgot where other one is, but yeah.
I mean, side mount antennas are made out of aluminum. They're on the coast. The thing that, there's always been a balancing act. We've looked at the aluminum line. The problem is you got to be either all in or all out, because if you're not buying forged flanges like you are on copper line out of brass, and you're machining them out of the aluminum, you don't end up with much of a savings, what we've found. So you either got to do aluminum line and stick with it, and that's what you build everything out of, or you do it with copper because you get the quantities on a lot of the other parts.
How about folks in the field, the tradesmen handling the aluminum line? Can they handle that well? Can they solder it or whatever well, or is that a problem?
The soldering's a problem.
yeah, it would be. Nick, you have the galvanic issue too, so you have to, like in a boat, you have to isolate the metals with a non-ferrous or stainless or something like that in between.
When we looked at this a few years ago, it's probably been 10 years now, we saw that there wasn't a huge savings on the line itself, but it was so much lighter than copper line. You could get by with half of the vertical spring hangers. And really the crews can take up almost twice as much at one time because it's just half the weight. So there's a savings on the installation usually that you don't see up front.
One of the things I've run into is, yes, go ahead.
One thing going back to what you started with about a lot of times the consultants don't get the call. As I watch younger people coming into the industry, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so to some of us, we have a lot of experience at everything from different transmitter manufacturers to all sorts of information. And a lot of us are pretty friendly about if within reason, if you have questions or whatever, we'll answer them. The sad part, and we all face it, all of us who do good work, is somebody calls you and says, hey, I bought this and it didn't work. And, people get really screwed up because, a little information is a dangerous thing. And you also face that, my dad was a Chevy man, so I'm a Chevy man, or my dad was a Ford man, so I'm a Ford man. And the industry has moved forward in many ways. And sometimes the least expensive call you make is the help you get for free from somebody who says, hey, let me get you started on a project, or at least headed in the right direction. And there's so much passion that people have for a different this or a different that. And they don't have the background or the knowledge to know whether or not that passion is well-founded or just misplaced because somebody said, hey, this is really a good thing, whatever the thing is.
That's very diplomatic. I mean, we all were fans of brand X or brand Y as we were growing up, and then time happened and maybe that particular flavor of antenna combiner wasn't loved as much and somebody else loved theirs more. So what worked then may not be the best choice now, but you go to the internet, damn it, and the truth is on the internet. We know how to ask questions. You'll never get wrong advice off the internet.
So, and that's where I was going to go. I follow 20 or 30 different engineering pages and mailing lists on Facebook, on different, remailers, radio lists, all of them. And there is a lot of folks who are confidently incorrect. Exactly. That's the phrase I use. So if you ask a question, you'll get 20 answers. and 16 of them would be 100% sure it's the right answer, and it'd be like, but that don't work, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work.
You're being negative. I'm going to ban you. You're a damn Canadian. You're foreigner. Yes.
I'll retire. Have a good day.
There you go. But there's a lot of passion, as you say,
Yeah.
that leads you to zealously defending your bad idea.
Yeah, and I mean, there'll be a lot of times you got to look through it, and you got to weed out the chaff and pick, like you develop a list of people that it's okay, that guy seems to know. At least he'll say if he doesn't know, and don't be afraid to say you don't know what you don't know, because there are people who will get very confident that it's a manufacturer problem when they didn't set the setting the way the manufacturer said. And I'm not looking at anybody specific.
We're calling out names here. This is good. This is good. I'm liking this. Stir trouble.
Well, no, he posted it on Facebook and tagged me in it a couple of hours ago. So it was
Self-inflicted
fresh in
wound,
mind.
buddy. I'm not going to defend your butt on that one. That's these guys who are getting combined systems. A lot of them have no clue what they're getting into. I've got this 8x10 shed I got from Home Depot, and I want to put my 12-station combiner in it. Any problem with that? If you're lucky, they'll ask that question. And that's where you were talking to various guys who are dealing with combiners at different sizes and types and flavors. And they overlook things like space. And gee, is there a fire code issue? Do you need space around the equipment? Air conditioning for some of it. I mean, what's some of the, again, reprise, what do you need to pay attention to if you're putting in a combiner in your place? You do need to air condition the damn thing. At least I think so. Some of them.
Well, and so then, and this applies to transmitters too. One of the things you talk to the manufacturer and say, what size air conditioner, they're going to give you the heat load of that piece of equipment.
Right.
They're not looking at the convection heating of the building, because we don't know what your building's made of. So you need an HVAC tech to do that too. We'll give you
That's
the
more
number.
money.
Oh, cry me a river. Sorry. Yeah, sympathy. I don't.
I know where that
do
is in the
well.
dictionary. Never mind.
But yeah, absolutely. Again, rely on local experts for whatever industry, whether it's an electrician, and he can reach out to us, and I can give you, again, current draw for everything we build. But I don't know what else you got in there.
You don't know what the person who's calling you doesn't know. And so you have to probe no matter what your position is. Or if you're a group chief and you're talking to somebody out in the boonies, try to get information out of them, and you're not trying to put them down, but sometimes they're afraid to ask you. So you have to tease it out of them so they don't make an error that becomes your fault. In ancient TV lore, because I'm an old guy, they used to have these big aluminum, they used to have an aluminum combiner or filter system for color television up on channel 60 something. And when the air conditioner turned on, the colors would do funny things, and it turned off, they go back the other way. I presume we don't have that kind of problem these days with modern technology and metals, or is that a feature you guys still have?
Yeah, no, those were diplexers. A lot of them were aluminum, but yeah, no, everything we do now made out of Invar, heat compensated.
Well, I had a full service mask followed by a land mobile filter. And it turned out, and it would drift. It would be rock solid 99% of the time, but then 1% it would go crazy. And we finally tracked it down. Actually, it was one of your gentlemen's products, to a plating issue. In other words, inside the canister or whatever, the plating was not what was specified. At least that's what I was told. And of course, we got a replacement filter. But it brought to mind to me just how sensitive filters can be to temperature and their environment.
You guys come up with any recommendations? Like, I know, Jeff, you come up with a whole Bible about 18 feet thick of things thou shalt and thou shalt not do when you install transmitters. Is there a similar thing for the filters and combiners that you guys try to educate people on, or does it depend? So you just have can be a little fellow that's talk to you, sort of talk, or what is the best practice for
When it comes to filters, having air conditioning that works in the room is great.
got it?
Keeping a constant normal temperature in the room, that's key. If your air conditioner goes out, your ambient temperature goes up 20 degrees,
Goes to hell.
all bets are off. It's the filter will work fine, but it may drift a little bit. It just keep it nice, stable, nice and stable. It won't move. Yeah, don't walk around on it.
Yeah, the people will, you put things on top of it. Let's say we can pile things on top of. Or a guy called me earlier in the year and said, I tightened all these things down on my stations off the air. Yeah, don't do that.
A lot of tightening.
I don't know if you run into that before, but one of you may have if the guy was honest, or maybe just called you up and said, let me get another one, please. But yeah, if you had a one that was sold in the last 6 months, or somebody had one, that was, yeah. So any more questions out there for you? Steve, you had some interesting, more thought questions for the industry, and they were all fuzzy and California-like and stuff like, what are we doing for,
Oh, what I sent William?
Yeah, he gave it to me as a cheat sheet.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so I think one of them was, as broadcasters, where's the industry going? What are we doing to operate and either as a nonprofit operate and generate revenue and fulfill the goals of the message, or as a commercial broadcaster to generate revenue, sell ads, generate revenue, have a good product. So what are broadcasters doing? What are they going to have to do in the present and future to be successful in the broadcast industry? So I'd like to hear from others, but I think efficiency, right? Reducing costs, efficiency, and innovation. So the resources for engineers, the resources for staff, and the budgets that they've had over the years is no longer there. So I think as an industry, we have to, collectively talk about that. What can we do for the broadcast industry to be successful in today's market and the future market? So those are some of the thoughts: efficiency, innovation, and the budget that we have today. Living within that, and how can we be creative with that? And then on the other end, broadcasters consuming, using products and generating revenue. Us as the manufacturers, what can we do to be aware of those restraints in the industry and be creative as manufacturers, both on the technology front, whether it be transmitters or passive products? What can we do to participate in that? So that's the questions that we're asking at AAT, Shively, Catrine, Scala, understanding those markets and what can we do to be a part of solutions for that.
I think that comes down to somehow getting we technology people talking to management people without them gagging or running like hell. I teach some management classes at the NAB for managers and owners, and I say, take your engineer to lunch. You've taken swarm of your people to lunch to get a spot schedule. Go visit the transmitter site, talk to your engineer, listen to them. They're probably care about the station more than you do. It's part of what the SBE is trying to foster, is learn how to communicate with managers. I try to teach managers how to communicate with you, but to your point, there's not enough exchange of information over the technology barrier. So you're doing it through filters, Jeff?
Well, and one of the things we're seeing, and at the risk of getting run out of the room, like the Inrush broadcasts and the Summit Technology groups and the engineering firms, the L&R broadcasts, those are getting to be a lot more common. Some of the big groups are moving more to like the iHeart Tiger Team methodology, where you have regional engineers and then a fleet of contractors you can call on. It all comes with a compromise. It means that if you go down, you could be down for 2 or 3 hours or days instead of back on in a couple of minutes because you had an on-staff person. But so as a manufacturer, one of the things we're doing, and I know Gates Air's doing it, is we're starting to put more training courses aimed at the engineering firms instead of just dedicated station engineers.
And you'll find a lot of the station managers are now trying to do their own thing. And they try to do their own repairs. And sometimes, by the grace of God, they don't get killed. And other times they learn a little bit and start to respect the technology point. Question?
I think one thing that Steve mentioned, but goes back to your comment on what are we seeing. I think one of the main things that you see is the lack of knowledge or the lack of an engineer at some of the smaller independent stations, which they end up relying more on the manufacturer as an engineering firm and looking for help when they don't have an engineer that's 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away. And as everybody knows, there's not a lot of younger people getting into the industry. So, you know, those engineers are spread out very thin. And I think that's one of the burdens that the manufacturer, and just speaking of just my, 15 years in the industry and representing manufacturers at a previous job, when something goes down, immediately they call you and say, hey, this transmitter's not working. I've got this. What should I do? And, it's what we don't know. But I think that's one of the problems that or hurdles, not a problem, but a hurdle that we see to help, this general manager that calls because for whatever reason. But I think that's one of the interesting things as time goes on. It's becoming more prevalent that the engineers are a little more scarce and they don't have the money to have a full-time engineer.
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm on the SBE board, so I play with this stuff as part of my day job almost. So in 2024, 18.1% of broadcast engineers were 66 or older, based on the salary survey data. That's not a viable long-term, and that is up significantly over 2011, the last time John Perret put those numbers together. So that's scary. There are a lot of things like Steve's Empower, like Gates Air's new NOx system that can help with that. But the need is out there for engineering knowledge. What Fred's doing with reaching out to the local high schools, Baltimore and here, and getting some of the youth in. I've got customers in Michigan who do open houses, and the engineers are looking for the kids who are looking to see what the mic's connected to. And they're saying like, hey, let's go set up an STL shot. We'll leave these other who's in here recording liners in a production room, but let's show you where the real fun is. And they hire their apprentices that way. So, there's a lot we could do. And I think we're not really doing it because we've never had to before. But if we don't start doing it fast, there's nobody to fix it or install it. We stop having an industry.
Yeah.
They're going away in droves. How were they going to reenact and bring that back at some point, or pick up some of the flow of people listening again?
Listeners and viewers are a problem. TV is following radio's path. Sorry, TV people. People are consuming entertainment differently, be it video, audio. People want to listen in short or watch in short bits on things they hold in their hand. It's a different industry. And it's not going to be solved by we technologists, but I think we need to be sensitive to it.
Gary, follow up to your earlier comment about take your engineer to lunch. A story that goes way back, and some of the people will remember Terry Bond in this room. I was privileged many years ago to make a site visit to Cumulus HQ when Cumulus was a much smaller company than it is now. And Terry had all the engineers from that group at the time in the room. And he said, almost everybody here is guilty of, I want to go to the transmitter site, not necessarily because I have something to do there, because it takes me away from the people. And he said, you as engineers are typically agents of stasis. You want to fix something and you want to have it steady. You have to remember that the people who are helping pay your salary are agents of change. and that you have to try to reach out to them and try to communicate your needs to them and vice versa, so that you can try to work in somewhat the same space. That is incredibly more difficult these days with the shrinkage in staffs and the, in many cases, those managers that he was talking about in those days don't exist anymore in the groups except at a regional level, and you may never even know the face of the manager that's actually responsible for your market.
Difficult time to be an engineer in this business, and I didn't mean to introduce a bummer thing, but you helped. But it's something we need to be thinking about. Sort of on the same lines to talk about a hard left turn without signaling. Whoops, we have a point. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe finish up on this young people, lack of engineers. So we know that stations don't have enough engineers, not enough young people are getting involved. I was the one also with Peter Wharton who started Media Forward, and we started student chapter at Montgomery College, where young people are part of engineering training to a certain extent. We just show up and help them understand that being behind camera also is worth it, not only in front of it, because everybody wants to be in front of camera. Hello, I'm right here in front of the camera. I also was involved with secondary schools in Montgomery County here, trying to help them get involved, and it's extremely difficult. A variety of organizations do not collaborate with engineering organizations to help students become engineers. They don't think it's sexy. They don't think it's a good employment. But some of you probably heard about Next Generation Warning System from FEMA that was supposed to be administered by CPB. I used to work for CPB. Last week was my last week. And I was involved from the very beginning, where public media was receiving money from CPB to replace air chains, small radio stations, television stations. We're involved also in building a training for engineers and young people. That money was supposed to help them really resolve at least part of the issue we have with not enough young engineers joining the fold. So my question to you is, how does that look like for manufacturers, okay, and vendors? So we know that stations have a problem. How does this look for you? For the people who are building this, providing the expertise, have the know-how, are the young people coming to you? Do you have enough of people to replace you, your knowledge, your technology, and carry on? Or are you facing the same problem?
I don't mind taking that one. I will say at Dielectric, one of the great things that happened for us was repack. With the repack, we were able to hire, I don't know, it was close to like probably 5 or 6 college, out of college. We call them kids. I was a kid when I started there as well.
You still are.
Still are, yeah. But anyhow, we were able to take advantage of that. And not only that, but those same people in about a 3-year period saw over 1,000 different antennas, and that was like probably 10 or 12 years worth of experience they got in that 3 years.
Drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah. So, they were able to see a lot of products that like I said, when I started, I was there for 9 years, and then we're making a TCL. I'm like, what the hell is this? I never seen this one before. You know what I mean? So they were able to see a lot of that. We've been able to hang on to some of that talent. What I will say is the work from home thing has been a real killer, I believe, in our industry, because that's what they expect. They want to be able to work from home. They want 4 days a week, and some of that you just can't compensate for. So we've lost some of the younger talent because of that. But I will say the average age is probably down by 20 or 30 years since when I started at Dielectric. Dielectric, used to be known, everybody there was in their 40s and 50s. We have a lot of 20-year-old talent now, and it's really good to see. And they challenge us older guys. They're like, well, why do you do it that way? Well, because we always have. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I talked about today came from that younger generation of asking why. And it's been really key. And just in 30 years I've been there, I've never seen this much innovation. And I believe a lot of it has to do because of the younger people challenging our older veterans, and our older veterans being able to understand that and then adapting too, where it's easy for them just to say no, they don't, which that's very key.
This helps if you're an innovator company like the companies here are developing new things all the time, which is kind of cool. Jeff, you're in your 30s. What
times two?
Didn't say to what power, but so how about you have a slightly different view because you are from,
Well, so we've got engineers that weren't born when I started at Nautel. As a rule, we're almost always hiring, and we've got a little turnover, not a lot. We've got still a lot of tribal knowledge. I'm there 35 years, and I'm not the oldest one in the room, experience-wise. But I mean, we just hired a new engineer today. I saw the announcement, young fella originally from India. We do hire from all over. The funny thing these days, if we put up a field service position, which we did a couple of weeks ago, I'll get half a dozen applications from radio station engineers who don't want to work in radio anymore, would rather work at the manufacturer. So to answer the question, from the manufacturing side, it's less a problem, but we're also sort of, to some extent, contributing to the drain from the industry by providing alternative solutions that mean you don't need an engineer for every little thing. You can call Steve and say, hey, turn on Empower and tell me what's wrong with my system. Or you can call the folks at Gates Air and say, hey, use your Nocting to look at my transmitter. So, the industry is changing. And I don't know that it's for the good or for the bad. It's just for the different.
In the ownership and got a question? Oh, not you. No, we're not listening to you.
Oh, all right. The way I've looked at it is that radio has lost its inherent nature of marketing. It used to be that radio was how you marketed various ideas to various demographics across a wide variety of ages. I think the power of that still exists, but it's greatly diminished. And a great reason it's been diminished is because there's been a concentrated effort from a variety of industry, companies, evangelists, you name it, in competing industries, mostly high tech, to use a very generic term, who have a direct financial benefit in downplaying radio's effectiveness and downplaying TV's effectiveness too. I won't talk as much about TV because I'm a radio nerd, but certainly in radio. And I think what bothers me about this is summed up in a very simple question. When's the last time you saw a billboard for a radio station? We are terrible at marketing our medium. And what's worse is that now we're getting another generation, and the plural of anecdotes, not data, but I know it didn't just happen to me, where you have leaders coming into broadcast outlets who actively do not believe in broadcast, who believe that the answer is to move everything to YouTube or to Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or Instagram probably these days, and are either willfully or just flat out ignorant of where the money's coming from. I mean, I remember dealing with board members 15 years ago when I first got hired at Rhode Island Public Radio, who were like, well, we should just turn the transmitters off. They cost a lot of money. We're trying to get people to listen to our webcast. And I was like, all right, here's our webcast stats. Our max connectivity on that server is 700 people. We can serve 700 people at a time. I know that because that's what we're paying for. According to our Nielsen's, we're getting 40,000 people listening a week to the FM. Why on earth would we shut off the FM? And he was just one example of a guy. He was one of the first people to own a Tesla. That explains a lot about him. You can extrapolate from there. And I think we do. I think it's more of a station issue than it is a manufacturer issue, but certainly if ever there was a time that I would love to see manufacturers bitch us out a little bit, I'm giving you the opportunity to do so now if you feel that this is a good opportunity. to do so.
But Welton's on the
Up the mic
stage.
on this one. Because it comes back to what Dale was talking about. And Gary's right. It's a programming issue, not an engineering issue. But until radio gets off of being the top 9 at 9 and playing a jukebox, which I can do on YouTube Premium just fine without the annoying commercials, and gets back to providing, like I, in my infinite spare time, assist with transmitter duties at a little little community station. Now, we're a Canadian community station, so we're 1,076 watts at 650 feet ASL, which means we've got a 30-mile coverage zone easily. Half of that coverage zone is over the water, but in the summertime, half of our listeners are on that water. So it works well for us. And we are allowed to sell ad space. We make budget. We play obituaries. We do community calendar. We do local stuff. And at any given time, according to, and we've done phone polls on this because we don't qualify for any ratings book in our market. But at any given time within our coverage area, 50% of the radios are tuned to our station. So we're pulling in more than the big stations in Halifax because we're providing a service. Are we great at it? No, we got zero cost, minimal cost. We got 35 volunteers. It wouldn't work in a commercial or even most public radio entities here. But for us, we found a niche that we can serve, that we can keep going on.
So
That's
it's about communications. It's about entertaining. It's about informing, which we've stopped doing, which is kind of out of our hands, unfortunately.
So the other thing, whenever we have a hurricane come up the coast, which we do this year, amazingly, they've all been fish storms. They all gone out to sea. We could use the rain, so I really wish we'd get at least one brush by. But anyway, that's a different discussion. But every time there's a storm coming, we will remind people that when your cell phones go down and when your internet goes down, which it does after any big storm, tune to 88.7 and you'll find us right here. And we make sure they know that. We do cross advertise in the local community newspapers, and we swap advertising. They actually advertise on the radio too. So we sell it. We don't do trade. We will sell them advertising and we will buy their advertising. But anyway, that's, like I said, you just got to find a system that works, and that's a challenge.
Speaking of systems that used to work, trying to segue desperately here. The ancient managers and owners were accustomed to transmitters and antennas lasting for decades and decades and decades. Then you have the class life, if you're worried about IRS in the United States, about it's only so many years for this and then it's worth no more. You have one transmitter manufacturer and transmission line and antenna and filter manufacturers.
Two transmitter manufacturers.
What's the class life? I mean, how long 40 years on a transmitter's not anymore. I think you can't get the parts for maintenance.
Before.
And antennas will last a long time as long as you don't do horrible things to them, put them bad places.
How many people drive a DeSoto?
0.
So why would you be running a 50-year-old transmitter?
It's cheap,
40-year-old.
they think.
So I tell people the time, and I say this, and I do a lot of course, maintenance stuff. The time to start budgeting for replacement of anything, microphone to the top of the tower, is the day you buy it. At that point, you figure out the depreciation on it. You figure out what your optimistic lifespan is, and then your realistic lifespan. And now you know when to start budgeting the replacement. For transmitters, as a rule, and it will vary manufacturer to manufacturer and product to product even, I tell people to start budgeting at 15 years and assume you're going to replace it in 20. And if you're going longer than 20, you're not doing yourself or the station any service.
I'm surprised that number is that big. I thought it'd be like 8 or 10 years.
I won't be working in either, so it won't matter to me. But
Good.
if you had asked me 5 years ago, it would have been 10.
Steve, any thoughts on that to be run?
It depends on the environment. At a harsh weather site, the antenna is going to last a lot less time than environments that are really favorable. In the desert or dry environments, you'll see antennas that easily last 20 years. But the desert has heat and sun, and that can have side effects as well. So I'd say, 10 to 20 years, have an auxiliary system, have a backup system in place. It's the worst thing when someone's off the air and that's their only way of broadcasting, have some type of auxiliary system. But for antenna systems, or depending on the environment, an average of 10 to 20 years.
While Williams switching microphones around, we'll get one other thing on that too. The time to budget for or to replace your gear, whether it's transmitter, antenna, microphone, or what, is while the previous one is still working, not after it's gone down.
Like,
Real quick, the only thing I would add to that is we hear a lot about like for like as well when people go to replace stuff. And I can tell you where I live, the population has changed drastically where people are compared to where they were. And I would reevaluate my geographic area of where I'm trying to hit if I was replacing my equipment. I wouldn't just mount it the same way that I mounted it 20 years ago. And I hear that a lot.
There's another question in the back.
Over here, I want to get back to a transmission line question that you raised earlier, Gary, and the responses all came back regarding rigid line, but there's also a lot of flexible line that's used, and I'm wondering if the various manufacturers can comment on the supply of flexible line and the turmoil in that particular market segment.
And I guess the only comment I would say is that FlexLine is no longer as economical as it used to be. We just took a hit on tariffs with FlexLine as well. And then on top of that, what they're charging for the per connector price is it's outrageous. You can buy a couple sticks of transmission line cheaper than you can buy a connector right now.
And connectors are usually where you have the fatalities, I think, in transmission line issues. The line itself, unless it was horribly screwed with, it usually will last forever and ever.
But I will say it's readily available now. For a while there, it was, when there was the dispute about the jacket between Amphenol and RFS and all that, it was pretty hard to even get the flex line. But now it's readily available, but price is still up there.
Anything from your side? I wouldn't do it. It'll make you sad. So, good question, Joe. It's funny, and stepping on landmines here because I'm good at that. But there was a period of time where we had a lot of burnouts of transmission lines for some of the DTV digital television changeover repack stuff, and I think that was due to what I could tell, hurried installations by crews that were tired and cheesed off. I don't know if that's been your experience of people saying, this section burned up, this elbow burned up. What'd you see?
On the flex line, we have invested heavily in flex line, so we do have a lot of inventory for foam and airline, so it is in stock and readily available. And we do all of our own connectors. We keep lots of connectors in stock. So just wanted to say, as far as the market, what's available, we do have a large inventory of coax and coax connectors.
Aren't there some species of connectors that are like unobtainium now, oddball, like 2 1/4 inch or something weird like that? Is there a couple you just can't get anymore?
Well, with CommScope not doing the airline anymore, I know that those products are harder to come by. However, we are, and some other manufacturers are manufacturing those connectors for those size lines. So we are able to provide connectors for older model lines.
So how long have you guys been using HFSS? I mean, it's apparently been a godsend for you, made life easier, quicker, thinner, blonder, taller, or something like that. I mean, I gather it's made the process from, can you build me an antenna, to shipping out the door more intelligent.
We've had a license probably for 20 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I felt like it's something more recent, but I guess it's been around for a while. Steve?
HFSS for Shively's they've been doing it for at least 20 years.
It was a big secret, nobody knew. But I guess because we all were thinking in the FM world, we had to prove it a certain way, and the TV people didn't seem to care at the FCC. It was very odd.
Yeah, for us, it's the getting the talent to operate it, input data properly, and to the data outputs to be observed in a way you know, if you have bad data in and getting bad data out. So certainly it's opened up a whole a level of opportunities for us and efficiencies. And yeah, we love it. We operate it every week and we have staff dedicated to that.
Good. Jeff Welton has a hint on how to make gas pass connectors for transmission line. I think you use a 1/4-inch drill. Was that you were saying?
So
Was that your recommendation?
That's what Myatt uses, an 1/8 inch, I think it is, but yeah, you can't buy. And my point was when I wrote that question, I had a situation just last week where an antenna had burned up. I'm not mentioning any names. I don't think it was anybody at this. I say table, but there's no table. Anyway,
Oversight.
What's that?
It's an oversight. I'm sorry.
That's it. Well, you said round table, and it's neither round or a table. So, you know, anyway. But they had a situation where they'd had an antenna burn up. Well, it turned out that the last connector before the antenna was a gas block, and nobody drilled the hole through. So the antenna hadn't been pressurized for 5 or 10 years. And eventually bad things happened. Michael, I saw you had the microphone come and tell you back there.
I was just gonna, when Gary asked how long should these days you should expect something to maintain or before replacement, but it kind of goes back to Jeff's analogy towards everything towards a car. You know, when your car needs your oil changed, then you have to change the oil. When your car needs new tires, you put new tires on it. And some of the, especially in the transmitters, sometimes there's maintenance that needs to be done annually. And as long as you maintain that, you can expect, you should expect a longer longevity of a product. But if you don't maintain it, then you can't complain after 4 years if your transmitter dies. And then you say, oh, you were supposed to clean the filters? Oh, I didn't know that. Or something similar in each of the manufacturers.
Yeah, and I mean, cooling would be a prime example too. I mean, like there was one manufacturer rep who used to go around touting the fact that their transmitters didn't require any cooling. And I'm here to tell you, every transmitter built today to some extent's got a microcontroller or a computer of some kind in it, and those things don't like to get really, really hot. It's electronics don't like to get really, really hot. Electrolytic capacitors will dry out and fail a lot faster at 40 degrees Celsius or 104 Fahrenheit. I'm bilingual, I speak English and American. But they'll fail a lot faster at high temperatures than at cooler temperatures. Fans are typically spec'd for a 5-year life cycle at 40 degrees Celsius, 104 Fahrenheit. And that will double for every 10 degrees Celsius or 18 Fahrenheit that you decrease your ambient. So at 68, a fan has a nominal 20-year lifespan. Okay, that's just one example. The cooler, and this all comes back to what Steve was talking about. The site conditions dictate your lifespan. Your maintenance dictates your lifespan. I still say start budgeting your replacement at 15 years, but if you got a crap site, you better start budgeting at 5. So there you go.
Joe.
I want to get back to the computer modeling of FM directional antennas. Cory spoke about this earlier several years ago. Dielectric convinced the FCC to start accepting computer modeling instead of range testing for licensing of directional FM antennas. So first Cory and then the other two antenna guys, where do you stand with actually getting those licensed? And the other guys, have you looked into that? Do you have those in the works, or are you going to stick with the range? Thanks. And I might have a follow-up when you're done.
Uh-oh. So basically all of our DCR models have now had, so I guess to back up, in order to say that you don't have to do both the range measurement and the HFSS study, you have to do a correlation of two. So for every model, DCRM, for example, covers our S and our U because it's the same element, just a different balance tube, but they consider it the same ring. The DCRC, the H. So all of those models now we've done a directional study. They've been done on the range, they've been done modeled, and then they showed that they correlated, and then they get an application number from the FCC, and then that's what the next person puts on their simulated pattern. What I will say is so we did all that. We checked all the boxes. We're ready to tear down the building out back. And then we said, well, wait a minute. What if we come up with a new ring style design or a new element? They said, well, the FCC said, well, we would expect you to do both. So we actually just did a new vertical dipole. The vertical dipole had to have a model made. And so I don't know how long it'll be before we tear down that range, because you got to do it with every model. But I don't know if I answered your question, but all of our typical models as of today all have an application number filed with them.
Okay, great. And at some point, we'll need to know those file numbers because subsequent ones have to reference the first one.
So when we do our pattern packet that goes to the FCC, it's got that on it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That number is on the new packets.
We've done several computer models already. Got 2 or 3 that are accepted. We've been doing them as we get orders for the antenna models. So, but we've been working through that process, and we'll continue to maintain the full scale range as well, because there's a certain section of people that still value that service, and we're happy to continue offering it.
Yeah, we'll continue to do both as well. Our scaled range has been, we have such a large library. It's been such a good tool for us. So we'll definitely continue to do both.
When you're going to change sites or change antennas, or everybody's going to get together on one tower, the topic of structural engineering comes up. You know, for one thing, you don't want the damn tower to fall down. The other folk knowledge is if you're strengthening a tower, that's when it's at its point where it's going to fall. Every failure I am aware of is when there was a strengthening. Somebody made an error when they were replacing a girth or whatever. If you're changing something on a tower, you still should do a structural, but it has to be to the current standard, or does it have to be to the standard when the tower was born, or what? Do you guys know offhand what the latest?
I believe we do everything to the H standard right now. I believe the I standard is out, but no one's using it yet. It's not referenced.
And that's an insurance company issue more than anything, and maybe local permitting, but usually it's an insurance company thing. You have to certify that you've done the right thing, and you're adding something to a tower so it won't fall down. And transmission line adds an awful lot to the tower. I mean, it's wind load more than you think. Any other concerns on when you're adding something to it for a multi-use site or a single site? What's the biggest worry? Is it wind blockage, wind load, or is it weight, or what do you tell the customer who's coming up? Both. I mean, what?
Wind load. It's usually wind load.
And people don't understand that. It's like a big sail. The thing will tilt over. So any other thoughts on structural issues? Because that's touchy stuff. And most of the towers out there you're dealing with, some of them are older than Jeff.
Super old. Oh, shut up.
Ice on guy wires will cause ice on guy wires will radically change how that tower behaves.
So my all-time favorite.
You get anywhere close to one where that guy is starting to gallop, the best thing you can do is turn around and stand back.
Yeah.
I've run into more than one, where somebody was co-located on a cell tower. Well, cell companies love to run all of the cables up one face. And so that is your sail. Well, turns out that not all cell company contract tower climbers are necessarily all that well trained.
They've been cutting grass the day before.
I'm being tactful here. So I walked into a site in Wisconsin, and I look, and about 100 feet up the tower, all of the cell cables are bowed out about 12 feet from the tower. And I said, wow, that really does look like a sail. And the guy I was with's like, oh no. And he called his buddy at one of the cell companies. And his buddy, to his credit, he was there in 15 minutes, and there was a tower crew on the way in 6 hours. But turns out the original crew had used black tie wraps to tie all the cables down.
That'll work.
Forget mounting adapters. You know, who needs those round mounting adapters or any of that stuff? So I guess the thing I'm getting back to is kind of where I started from. Trust but verify. If you got a tower crew up there, get a pair of binoculars and make sure you see those hangers and that things were done right.
If you have a community tower, what else is on the tower that you're going to. If somebody's like a cell carrier is below you, do you need to turn down your power or turn off to accommodate that? Things you need to think about. Where am I going to? Does this provide the right kind of coverage? Is it the right vantage point? Am I going to have a problem with cell monkeys that are going to make me turn off? I have a client in Alaska that's almost every day they have to turn down their power because somebody wants to do maintenance. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, one of the other questions that come up with towers in particular is, towers aren't owned by the same people that they used to be. I don't know if they're like houses that are being bought up by real estate companies or anything, but if you happen to see this, transmission lines that were hanging 12 feet away from the tower, was there work done on the tower in the last 2 weeks? Or did they not have put the hangers on 6 years ago and they've never had an inspection and they've never had a plumb intention and they've never had a surveyor's transit on the thing? I do know of one tower from many, 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 many years ago that turned out it had been put together out of 3 towers, and the part that was in the middle was a pipe leg tower rather than a rod leg tower, and the climber was going up and put his hand right through one of the legs and said, well, I won't be doing this anymore on this tower. So I don't know how much, we're talking about, transmitter life and everything else, but the other thing that preserves these facilities is regular maintenance. Has the tower been plumb intentioned? Has anybody checked to see if the anchors are still in good shape? And I don't know who's doing that anymore, because at a lot of these sites, I don't know who works there anymore.
It is hard sometimes to get in touch with site owners. Some of the tower owning companies, vertical real estate companies, do a real good job, and some of them tend not to. It just depends. Tower maintenance is a big thing, and guy anchors are something that nobody looks at, but there's corrosion below the ground level is an evil. It'll get you right away.
Or the ground kit won't be installed on the guy wire and the concrete's spalled because it got a couple of strikes.
Exactly. Anything else?
One other thing on towers too is you got to, and we do it at our station, make the decision. We will bring in a consultant for any kind of tower work. He will hire the structural engineer, because that moves the responsibility off of me over to you. And, I assume carry some, I don't know if you carry insurance for that or not. It's not my circus, not my monkeys. But sometimes having that layer of removal, if you will, is beneficial.
Indeed, documenting who is where and what authority they have to operate. Are they a PE? Are they a licensed surveyor? Are they bonding? Have all the right credentials. You get copies of that stuff, because if something goes wrong, lawyers are going to start looking for people to blame. Jim?
This is a slight change in topic. It applies more to 3 out of the 4 of you on the Roundtable panel there. Not so much Jeff, although I'm sure that the question comes up for you. A few years ago, I seemed to get 1 or 2 requests a month from people, sometimes full power, sometimes low power, getting complaints from a company that starts with A, not that company, that was, they would put a new cell service in, and we'd get the 7th and 8th harmonic problem, and requiring a usually relatively inexpensive filter. I have seen less of that now, except in the cases of new LPFNs that I'm trying to help not do really stupid things, and saying, is there a cell tower nearby? Is it just me, or is the incidence of complaints gone down?
So this one is very much me. LTE interference has been my territory since 2016. And with the 5G rollout, it's getting better. However, there is still a 5G band that falls into that same 800, 900 megahertz range. So it's not a problem. I still get about 1 or 2 calls a year, but that's down from 1 or 2 calls a week. So yeah, it's a significant decrease.
Yep, me too.
And odd thing is 9 times out of 10, the problem had nothing to do with the transmitter or the antenna. It'd be either a loose ground wire, which happens to make a handy antenna, or it'd be a something else totally offsite re-radiating.
Cabinet re-radiation.
I've had one where it was a neon sign 2.5 miles away with a bad power supply, re-radiating the radio station on the cell frequency.
It can
could
be
have,
it can be really hard to find.
Any
And
hams in the room? Anybody here ever do a fox hunt? If you get an LTE interference complaint, grab yourself a cheap Yagi antenna, plug it into a spectrum analyzer, and start doing a fox hunt.
Sometimes the fault is a technician doesn't know how to run a spectrum analyzer and overloads it. Last in usually has to deal with it. So if the cell company showed up, it starts complaining about you because of a political misstep, which I'll tell you guys at a bar somewhere, they screwed themselves. So they have the responsibility for curing it if they're the last ones there. So, hang on. It's here, big dog.
On that note, we live in a golden age of cheap but good enough for the purpose test equipment. And if you have not looked at the bottom end of what's available in the tiny SA and micro nano VNA and that sort of thing world for $50, $60, stuff that you can hand to somebody without worrying about getting it back because it's not your Roden Schwartz, it's not your Agilent, it's like, if it doesn't make back to me, it's fine.
So a couple of months ago, we were dealing with someone in Savannah who had one of those nano VNAs, and we were trying to help him tune his antenna over the phone.
Jesus.
Sorry. We were wildly unsuccessful over the phone. And I made a trip to Savannah, and I fixed this problem in about 3 hours.
They're not great for anything in a high RF field.
They're not great for anything in broadcast because broadcast is so precision. We want to be, we're looking for those 1.02 VISWARs. Those nano VNAs aren't going to get there.
Yeah. The other thing, the good thing. Yeah, they've got value. But like with the LTE interference thing, the cell companies typically are looking for noise levels at 120 dB down when the FCC specs 80. So 40 dB is 4 more decimal places. And you're so far into the grass that they're coming in with an Anritsu Sitemaster. And I'll tell you from experience, the noise floor on that is 95 dB unless you've got a signal generator and a heck of a pile of filtering involved. They don't use filtering because they're measuring microwatts and milliwatts, not kilowatts. So, you really got to educate the cell guys quite a bit.
It's all about personal charm, which we engineers have in spades, right? So. Anything else? William?
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Have we done enough damage?
I think so. Thank you all very, very much.